Hey, this is Table Talk, and our topic today is the rise in Hispanic population on America and its effect on American politics. I'm Deshana Shakes, and today we have some guests with us.
I'm Alfred Orlean.
And I'm Yusra Qureshi. Today we're discussing the effects rising Hispanic population has on voting, education, jobs, and politics.
Stick around because we're going to start off with voting.
I'm Yusra Qureshi, and
I'm Deshana Shakes.
I'm Alfred Orlean.
so a hot topic today, guys, is voting and the Hispanic population. And in a 2010 consensus, the Hispanic population is said to be rising faster than any other demographic, which is it's pretty common knowledge. Everybody knows about that. And currently, 50.5 million Hispanics live in the United States. That's roughly 16% of our population. So, what do you think about Hispanics and their impact on voting? Is it a big impact, or is it it's not a big deal? It's just something people talk about. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a very big impact because you have people coming from these different countries, and in different countries they have their own beliefs and values. And they bring their beliefs and values to our country, and it impacts our voting. They vote because of what they feel their country would do instead of what would help America and what's good for us.
So you're saying they carry over these ideologies that don't really fit in with
and
what...
they bring it here, and it's different for us because we're not used to these people voting. Americans are supposed to be voting.
Yeah, like for somebody who would empower education and not just
Who's gonna help America instead of trying to bring what they know from their country?
Yeah.
Because you're not voting in your
because
country
it's two
anymore.
different things.
All these countries.
America is a completely separate thing in and of itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what about you? You got some interesting ideas about that?
Well, like you said, with the large amount of Hispanics in the United States, you pretty much see a fight for their votes. We see that the Democrats they'll attempt to get the Hispanic vote, while the Republicans they only need 25 to 35% of the Hispanic vote. So you see the Democrats trying to push for the Hispanic vote in a lot more, pretty much.
So yeah, I've noticed that, especially in 2008 when Obama was first coming into an election, you notice that a big target of that was, of course, was the African American population, but mostly it was Hispanics because it's such a large population, and they're kind of in the middle. They don't know, am I going to go Republican, am I going to go Democrat? So it's kind of just like a free for all. Let's target the Hispanic population.
Well, we've actually seen that in the before years when Obama first came in, they had a greater. The Hispanic vote, it was largely Democrat. Well, it was largely Democrat, but we've also seen that in these later years that the Republican vote, the Hispanic Republican vote, it's largely decreasing. I think it went down from 45% to now it's 35%.
And is it that, as you said, they're coming from all these different countries, and that's America's a melting pot. Everybody comes from all over the place. Is it that just in specifically Hispanic populations, it's just a certain set of ideas, and that when they come, it's not like Democrat and Republicans, they don't actually understand it, and that okay, am I going to go for the person who targets the minority? It's not just in the name of Democrat and Republican. There's actually a lot of ideologies behind that. Is it that they don't know? Because, yeah.
Could be. And then we have, in 2004, 5.1 million Hispanics voted for Democrat candidates. 4.3 million Republicans. In 2008, the ratio changed, with 7.8 million voting Democrat and 3.6 million voting Republican, according to the data compiled by New Policy Institute.
Yeah. Well, it's going to change no matter what, because voting lines are always being redrawn, and it's Democrats racing and winning, and then it's Republicans, and it keeps changing. And I think the whole country should keep an eye on the Hispanics, because it's going to be it's the biggest growing population. And they're going to make a change. It's going to be a big difference.
It's going to affect the American politics.
Completely, especially,
no matter, it's going to affect it.
We'll be right back with more Table Talk. Welcome back to Table Talk, where we're talking about the rising Hispanic population in America. We just got done talking about voting, and now we're coming back talking about jobs and education.
Yeah. So many try to blame immigration on the fact that these people come from these other countries, but a lot of times they're actually native to America and they're born here and they're just Hispanic. If you don't provide education for these children, then when they grow up, they'll just have regular low-wage jobs. And honestly, if they have low-wage jobs, people would rather hire them than hire somebody who has a good education, have to pay them a lot of money. And the government is missing out on these children becoming something that the U.S. needs if they don't give education. And, they speak different languages. It's not easy for them to sit in a regular class like we do because we know what the teacher's talking about, and they don't. So education is really important. Do you guys have anything else on that?
Yeah, I mean, you always hear people talking about how, you have to make special accommodations for these kids who don't speak English, and, being bilingual, it's a really good quality to have now when you get a job. I mean, if it's like working as a doctor or a lawyer or even working at McDonald's, if you speak Spanish, you're more likely to get hired. But, I think America's always been like a melting pot. It's always been people coming from all over the world coming here trying to better their lives, and at the same time, they're bettering the country. So I think, in my opinion, I think it's only fair that, we have a rising Hispanic population. It's just the same that if we had, a rising Arabic population, we would start speaking Arabic in school. And if we had a rising Chinese population, we'd be speaking Chinese more in school. And I think that it's only smart because America doesn't have an official language as English. And I mean, it's not the entire thing. Education is really spread out. It involves taxes, but I think the language and the culture of it, it's also extremely important when it comes to education and when it comes to jobs.
And down the line, we need people. We need teachers that can actually teach the Hispanic children. Because 10 years from now, our classes are going to be full of Hispanic children.
And it's going to be our history.
And not, right, like you said, not even just Hispanic, but it'll be full of just different type of students. It won't be all American students. So what are you going to do? Have them sit there and not, learn?
Exactly.
So what you guys are saying that education should start focusing more on like speaking on Spanish speaking students?
No, not even just
Spanish, but
I think we're, as a country, we're all just kind of like, no, I don't want change, but change is inevitable, especially with a rising Hispanic demographic. It's inevitable. We have to move with it. We have to move with the tidal wave of immigrants, and not, like you said, it's not just immigrants anymore. It's people who come to this country and they're immigrants, then they have kids, and those kids are Americans. Those are American citizens.
They might not speak American or English, but it's a lot of different children that need that education because in the future we're gonna need them. They can be politicians. They can be anything. They could work for the government. They can become president.
And what you were saying about the jobs, and it just stuck in my head. It's like people from China, because we have the best universities here in America. We have the Ivy League colleges, especially. They'll come here from their country. They'll get an amazing education here. They'll go back to their country and look at China and Japan and India and all these countries where they're just getting like even more technologically advanced. We can have that here if we focus on these minority groups and not just focus on the privileged white kids. And I'm not, I'm trying to be racist. It's just a fact that we need to focus on minorities as well, because we can be like we can become the same as we were back when we were just like a new country. It can be a new beginning for America, and I think focusing on our rising demographic is the way to go.
And mainly, education and jobs and all that. All those things are going to change how the politics and American politician and all that, it's going to have an effect on it. Like I said, if a child knows a lot and he went to school and he or she went to school and they have a good education, they could be a part of the American politician. So it will have an effect, and we'll probably see many more Hispanics on the American politics and elections and things.
And I think the whole having a representative in government for a minority group, well, it's not really a minority in that population-wise, but minority in like how they're treated and what their rights are. I think that we should definitely have more representatives in the government for that. And then, you know how a few years ago, the whole Arizona having the immigration laws, and then you think about it and you think, well, what kind of effect would that have on our jobs and how our society runs? Because they're like, these low-wage jobs, someone has to do them, because if it builds up the whole foundation for our country. So do you think that we should have stricter immigration laws to lower this rising population demographic, or should we? What should we do there?
Well, I think we should have stricter laws because statistics say that these because of the immigrants, like the job market is like lowering. Jobs are becoming harder to get for working Americans, while immigrants come in and they take the easy jobs pretty much.
Yeah, I understand. But what about their kids, that come here and they're born in America? They're American citizens.
Yeah.
And then there are some that are not, but the ones that are American citizens, what do? They just become orphans here? Do we send them out? And I think as the demographic keeps rising, it's just going to be a topic that keeps coming up over and over. It's not going anywhere,
It's going to continue to change because right now we have more than half of the students in school in Texas are Hispanics.
And it's not just in South Florida. You'll see in Miami, these kind of cities, it's a majority of Hispanic students, and mostly, of course, like the border states. That's where you're going to see it: California, Texas, Arizona. And it's just, but it's going to end up spreading out. People are going to move, and jobs, education, voting, politics, all these things are. America's on the brink of change, and a really big change. And I think the Hispanic population and its change to our country, it's
gonna change American
it's gonna be huge.
It's gonna have a big effect on it, and like you said,
and I think we should treat them as Americans because that's what they are. Because it's not if you're white or if you're Native American or if you're black that's the only kind of American. I mean, everybody's an American. That's just what it is. But it's gonna be a great change, and I'm ready for it.
I'm ready too.
So thanks for watching Table Talk, where we talked about the rising Hispanic population. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned a lot. Try and leave a response for us. Tell us what you think.
And again, I'm Deshana Shakes.
I'm Yusuf Qureshi.
I'm Blair Orlean.
Thanks for watching.
We're out.
This is Team Made, and this is our bloopers. This is Team Made, and this is
Hey, this is Table Talking.
Wow. The first take.
Hey, this is Table Talk, and our topic today is rising Hispanic population in America and its effect on American politics. Today we have some special guests with us.
The lad Orlean.
I'm Yusuf Qureshi. Today we're
Today we have with us some special guests.
The lad Orlean.
And I'm Yusuf Qureshi. Today we've got some